Hi, I'm Marcus Hutzel, and welcome to another Audio 101 series video. I hope you find these videos helpful, and if you do, hit those like and subscribe buttons below. It really helps out my channel. Now, remember, these Audio 101 topics apply to both the novice, possibly home or home office user, and the experienced audio engineer, because audio and the equipment we use to capture, record, process, and amplify our audio all operate basically the same way, and our goals and processes are the same as well. So whether you're in a home studio or home office, having a virtual meeting using a USB mic, podcasting or live streaming a virtual event, or whether you're in the live audio production field using professional audio consoles for live corporate events and even for concerts, our goals are the same: home user and audio professional. And our challenges are the same as well. So even if you know nothing about audio and are just starting out, this video is for you. And if you're an up-and-coming live audio engineer or even an experienced one, this video is definitely for you as well. Because in my professional work as a project and production manager, and in my professional work as an audio engineer, live audio operators get some of these things wrong a lot of the time, and it causes all sorts of issues in the live audio environment. And that's due to a lack of basic audio fundamentals, and therefore a lot of bad habits getting passed down. So listen up. Now, as an audio operator of any kind, you have a couple of primary goals, and you're always trying to balance between these two goals. And they are, number one, avoiding distortion or clipping within any of your equipment in your signal chain, from your microphone diaphragm to clipping out your preamp on your audio console or your USB audio interface, or even clipping out your amplifiers that power your speakers, or clipping out your audio software. We want to avoid distortion and clipping. That goal is hopefully obvious. Now, granted, some analog audio equipment can be pushed into distortion to provide a specific sound that is actually desirable and can be used as an effect, like overloading a boutique mic preamp or compressor to give it a specific sonic characteristic, like classic Neve or other boutique analog preamps, or an analog Universal Audio 1176 compressor. But those effects of overdriving analog audio gear are usually the result of experimentation, and it's not the same for every piece of gear, and most basic analog audio equipment still isn't going to sound very good if you overload it and clip it out. And most of us out there are recording either live events, YouTube videos, corporate or wedding videography, podcasts, or doing large live corporate production work or even post-production work. Those of us that are doing that type of work, we generally aren't using boutique analog audio equipment. Most of us these days are using USB microphones or USB audio interfaces, digital standalone audio recorders, audio software, DSLR and mirrorless cameras like the two I'm using right now, and live digital mixing consoles like Behringer, Midas, or Yamaha mixing consoles to get our work done. And since a vast majority of audio engineers are using digital gear, that's mainly what I'm talking about here, and clipping out digital audio equipment is bad and it will ruin your audio. And yes, digital 32-bit float audio recorders are making it easier to record your digital audio without clipping, but that's not the case for live digital audio processing and amplification yet. So I'm focusing on standard digital 16 or 24-bit audio equipment for the most part, or in some cases, non-boutique analog audio gear like small mixing consoles or outboard gear that will also just not sound very good if you distort or clip its components. So goal number one, avoid clipping and distortion. And the second goal is noise, or rather, always striving to reduce as much noise as possible in your signal chain so that your audio is clean. And by noise, I mean the noise inherent and generated from our equipment. I'm not talking about ambient acoustic noise in our environment. That is important depending on what you want to record, but I'm mainly talking about system and equipment noise, the noise floor of each piece of equipment. And we want to have a strong signal to noise ratio. We want our signal as far from that equipment noise floor as possible. So those two things: avoid distortion and clipping with any of your equipment, and at the same time, attempting at every step in your gain structure to limit the amount of noise that gets into your audio signals. Those two things are your two primary goals. And if you're in a live environment, then you may have to add the 3 additional goals of proper amplification, even distribution and coverage, and getting rid of feedback. But even in a live environment, you should still always be aware of those first 2 goals. Stay away from distortion and clipping, and limit noise. And it's that second goal, limiting noise or having a really strong signal to noise ratio, where I see a lot of problems with engineers in the live audio workforce. And if you end up with noisy audio, it all ties back to improper gain structure, which I'll get to another time. So these two goals of avoiding distortion and keeping noise out of our audio go together because they are at opposite ends of the spectrum. And when you start to get closer to one of them, you get further away from the other. So you have to find a balance point. And the reason they go together is fairly simple, actually. To be able to keep your noise low and stay away from your noise floor of your equipment, you have to and should be gaining properly at the beginning of your signal chain, which means you have to gain your audio signals up and over your noise floor as much as possible, which means usually gaining as high as possible without clipping, of course. But gaining properly or hot usually puts you in the upper ranges of your gain pots and ever closer to the possibility of clipping and distortion. So more gain means a cleaner signal, but it puts you closer to potential clipping. And the additional part of avoiding distortion and clipping is just to always leave enough headroom so you just can't clip. But leaving headroom is part of setting up a proper gain structure with your preamps and all of your gear. I gain my inputs nice and strong where they should be. And to some engineers, they think I'm running my levels hot, but I'm not, because preamps are there to take our low mic level signals coming from our microphones and gain them up to line level for our console, for our recorders, and for all the rest of our audio gear, because our audio equipment was designed to work best usually with line level audio signals. And I'm gain staging the entire system from microphone to mixer to amplifier to speakers, or from microphone to USB audio interface to audio software, or even from microphone to camera, like how I'm recording this video. Those are all the same process, but you have to take every component in the system into account when gain structuring. And I'm running my signals through my system at the levels the equipment was designed for and that will produce the least amount of noise and without clipping or distorting any of the inputs or the outputs. And that means gain staging everything to get up to a strong, decent line level voltage from the time it leaves the analog space and enters a microphone, then a mic preamp, then flows through the console, the processing equipment, the software, or the amplifiers, etc. So every single step along the way. If you run into a live audio scenario where you think gaining hotter means that it's going to be louder, then turn your amplifiers or speakers down or pull down your faders on your outputs. Do not turn down input gain on a mic preamp to try to adjust volume. That's simply an absolutely incorrect gain structure. And gaining low will almost always produce noisier audio at the end of your signal chain. And remember, limiting noise is one of our two main goals. But this is why our audio equipment has visual meters, so we can verify with our eyes what our audio levels are actually doing electrically inside our equipment. That's what the meters are for. Use them. Listen with your ears and verify with your eyes. But the meters are going to tell you whether you've got enough gain or enough signal going through your equipment electrically. As anyone touching any piece of audio gear, you have a responsibility to try to achieve both of these goals. And honestly, it's not hard to do. Our equipment is engineered to take our audio signals and gain up or amplify them to an electrical level that the equipment works best at and where that equipment will give us a clean signal. And that's generally what you would see as a 0 dBu mark on an input meter, or maybe around -16 to -12 dBFS on a dBFS meter. But the point is, we should strive to be in the upper third of the meters usually, no matter the scale being used. Sometimes the numbers on the scale don't matter so much as the levels they represent visually on the meter. And for professional audio consoles, I see a lot of live engineers running their input gains so low on their consoles that their input meters barely register a visual signal, which means their input signals are very close to the noise floor of that particular piece of equipment. And if I put a pair of headphones on, I can hear the noise in their audio coming from the console itself. It has this hiss to it, and it's very low. Why? Well, think about it. Here sits the noise floor of, say, an audio mixer, and maybe it's pretty low on this particular piece of equipment. But if you only gain up a mic preamp to a low level on your audio meter, then your signal is sitting down here close to the noise floor of the equipment. So your signal sits down close to the noise floor and travels through your gear at this low level. Then when it reaches the endpoint of that equipment, it's going to need to be amplified more because, hey, it's quiet. And when we gain low and send a low audio level through our equipment, then amplify it with either a headphone jack in headphones or with speakers, or in post-production in video or audio editing software, we now amplify this entire signal, which includes, guess what, the system noise with it. So we end up amplifying noise along with our main signal. And you really don't want to do that. That's just bad gain structure and bad signal to noise ratio, and it doesn't matter if you're recording or if you're amplifying something live. It's bad either way, it's not proper gain structure. You want your signal to noise ratio to be as high as possible. That is, you want your signal as far from that noise floor as possible. That is one of your two goals, always. This isn't a hard concept to understand, but I see it as a constant daily problem in the live audio workforce, improperly applying gain structure. And what it results in, even though these engineers are actually amplifying those microphones for the room that we're in that day, their audio is noisy. And in today's world, we're doing a lot more recording and a lot more live streaming. And that noise from their equipment, although you may not hear it coming out of a speaker in a room full of people, you will hear that noise if the same signal is sent over to something like a camera for a live stream or a USB audio interface or something where you're feeding into vMix or OBS to do a live stream. And we are just recording and streaming more and more content daily, both personally and professionally, from me and you in our home offices and YouTube studios to recording and live streaming huge conferences. And your virtual audience deserves clean audio as well, don't they? If, as an audio operator, we aren't trying to limit noise, then we're only doing half of our job, and we're simply not using our equipment as it was designed to operate. And I honestly don't think that in today's world, even with digital audio gear, where if you hit 0 dBFS, you clip, not even with that limitation am I afraid of running things hot, because I don't consider it running hot. I'm properly gain structuring my inputs to where they're supposed to be to get the best signal to noise ratio and to give my equipment the best opportunity to do its job, and to ensure my mixing console or software can actually do something with the audio signal so it can process that signal efficiently or at all. If you gain low at the beginning, it simply means more noise at the end, and it means your processors like your equalizers, your compressors, your auto mixers may not operate or activate properly, and that can ruin a live show really quickly. Gaining appropriately at the beginning of the signal chain and using your preamps as they were designed and getting those incoming mic signals gained up nice and strong at the beginning of your signal chain means your main signal is simply going to be cleaner as it travels through the rest of your gear. It will pick up less noise, because your signal is strong and far enough above your noise floor. And your console and other gear will be able to act upon your signal as it was designed to do as well. This is literally how audio equipment and preamps work and how every single audio engineer is supposed to be using it. So stay away from distortion and clipping, but don't be so afraid of that prospect that you forget your second goal of giving the audience what they deserve, and that's clean audio without unnecessary noise. It's not hard, and it's our job. So those of you watching in your home studio or just starting out with a home virtual office, hopefully this has helped you understand some basics. Remember them, use them, and you'll achieve great, undistorted, and clean audio every time. Those of you out there in live production, my fellow production and audio people, take note, because I've seen this issue creeping up a lot in the past 8 to 10 years or so. It's becoming a problem in my opinion, and it's leading to bad habits getting passed down. And it's leading to noisy audio and more problems that those audio operators can't solve. And it just leads to up-and-coming audio engineers not having a full grasp of what their goals are, how their equipment operates, and how their end product actually sounds. Those two main goals are important, especially in this virtual world. If you're not aiming for both of the goals of avoiding distortion and having clean signal, you need to be doing so. That's your job, and that's what you've been hired to do. So do it well. All right. Good luck. I'll be listening. Later.